everyone, welcome back to my booktube channel and welcome to Bookmas. Just as a reminder, I am doing 12 days of Bookmas every other day, so I know a lot of people are finishing up their Bookmas content, but I hope you're not sick of me because I will be sticking around until like December 23rd or something. Anyways, that brings us to today's video where I'm doing the end of year book tag that is floating around YouTube. And then all credit to Destiny Sidwell because she created this book tag from questions from her viewers. Let's get started with the most disappointing read of the year. First up on the list, I have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I had heard so many good things about this series, and when I picked this up, I just did not care. I just could not get into it, didn't feel connected, didn't really care to see where the story was gonna end. So I didn't even pick up the second one, but I fell in love with her other series, The Natural, so honestly, not too mad about this one. Next up, I'm scared to even say this one, but next up we have Iron Flame. I don't even know what to say, except I had way too high expectations. I absolutely loved the first book. I loved that world. And then for some reason, this book just didn't hit the same. I think it's because of the relationship pacing that I couldn't get into this. But I'm so glad I read it and I'm excited for the rest of the books. Okay, sorry, I should have warned you that there's gonna be multiple books for multiple answers, but last up for this question, we have the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I hated these books. I'm sorry, but they were not it for me. I don't tend to love the YA genre, but especially this writing, I just could not. Clearly the TV show did super well, so I'm really happy about that. However, I would not recommend these books. Next up, we have Underdog Book of the Year, and that would definitely be Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I picked this up because of the beautiful cover, I was just obsessed with this. And then I ended up really caring about the story and wanted to see where it ends. This book is a literary fiction, so I didn't have high expectations, and I think that's why it really blew me out of the water. It also read like a memoir, which I really enjoyed. And it was also just relatable about a main character that doesn't have everything together. Oh goodness, y'all are not going to like this one for a book that was overhyped. Honestly, I'm scared to show y'all this, but it is Love in Other Words. I'm so glad that a lot of people love this, but I did not at all. And I don't typically gravitate towards friends to lovers, so that might have something to do with it. But I also just didn't enjoy the build up to the very end of finding out what happened and then learning what happened. I have a lot of problems with the ending of this book, and that's not what we're going to get into. But yes. Okay, and then I'm not gonna go grab the books because they're all series and I'm sure you're gonna see them later in this video. But for favorite book couples of the year, I have so many. First up, I wrote Chestnut Spring series, specifically Willa and Cade, obviously. And then I'm currently in the middle of Reckless and I'm loving that. So I'm gonna put Theo and Winter out there too. And then I wrote down ACOTAR because I can't believe I read that this year. I started the series in January and I feel like I've known these characters forever. And then last up, of course, I wrote Magnolia Parks. And then as for favorite main characters of the year, I wrote down ACOTAR again. I literally just found so much joy in reading about these characters. The found family, I literally love them. And then I also wrote down Shatter Me because Warner, Kenji, I mean, that was just so fun to read about those characters. And then for book that surprised you, I have two. And they both happen to be historical fictions. So that is definitely a genre I want to pick up more in 2024 because I loved these. Specifically, Carrie Soto is Back. This book was so good. I read it in a day almost. Surprisingly, I loved the tennis. I loved the competitiveness of this and it was just so good. One of my top books of the year. And then for a new favorite author of 2023, I found so many. Didn't realize this was the first year I read an Ali Hazelwood book. Once again, I picked the first one up in January, so it feels so long ago, but it was within the year. So we have Ali Hazelwood, Lynn Painter, Elsie Silver, Sarah J. Maas. Love all of those. My happiest read of the year. I'm so glad you asked. I will be talking about this book until the end of time. I love this book. I just had the best time reading this. I was just constantly wanting to pick it up, smiling the whole time I was reading it. It just brought me to the 70s and I didn't want to leave. All right, this is another question I'm kind of scared to answer, and that is most frustrating book of 2023. And first up, I grabbed Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I'm so glad all of you loved the It Happened One Summer book, but I picked this up and I really disliked it. I think it's the lowest rating I've given out as a 2.75. I just did not enjoy the male main character. He was very immature to me and I did not like him at all. I should have DNF'd this and I kept reading it, so that's why it was frustrating for me. And then the second book I have to say is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. Same vibe as Love and Other Words, where I couldn't wait for the reveal. Like, I hate feeling anxious through a book, just waiting to find out a sliver of information. So yeah, that was frustrating, but this book just made me feel not so good. So, and then the next question is Best Adaptation of the Year. And I'm going to take that as in, what book have I read this year that turned into an adaptation? Not necessarily this year, but it has one. So I'm gonna have to say Twilight, because I mean, the movie is iconic. But the longest book I read this year was A Court of Silver Flames. This book was thick. And then the shortest book I read that wasn't like a novella or anything is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And then my favorite covers of the year were Riders and Lovers, like I've already mentioned, Magnolia Parks, because duh. And then Malibu Rising, I think this cover is gorgeous. It's so simple, but it's so pretty. It kind of reminds me of like a coffee book table, you know? And then a book I haven't been able to stop thinking about is definitely Mary Jane. I'm telling y'all, I love this book. Okay, I kind of moved y'all a little, but the next question is the cringiest book that you read this year. And I kind of struggled with this question at first, but then I came to my answer of Vampire Academy, but not cringy in a bad way, like cringy in a good way, if you get what I mean. Like Twilight, honestly. And then as for an unpopular book that I loved, I would have to say it was from one of my latest videos where I did the Goodreads highest and lowest rated books, and that is Too Wrong to Be Right. I hadn't heard anyone talk about this, and I thought it was like really cute. Like kind of the same vibes as Sarah Adams, which I've only read the cheat sheet by her, but like that's what I'm comparing it to. But like low-key I liked this more, so. Okay, and then the next question is, what was the highest and lowest rated books you read this year on Goodreads, and do you agree? So obviously the lowest one is this one, and I don't agree. I loved this book. And then the highest rated book I read was A Court of Mist and Fury, and I would agree because I loved that book. Next up is favorite quotes of the year, and I'm going to skip this because I'm just being lazy, so sorry. And then for books with the most unique concept, I would definitely have to say None of This Is True, because I really enjoyed the podcast aspect of this, and like them being birthday twins. I don't know. I feel like with this genre of book, you have to kind of be like weird and creative, and I did really enjoy this. And then as for like a rom-com, I would say Love Theoretically, because like the love interest is the brother of a guy she's fake dating, and I just really thought that was unique and I liked it. We're almost done, but now on to the books that I would reread next year. I'm gonna have to say Heartless by Elsie Silver. Oh my gosh, I seriously love this book. I just would love to pick this up next summer and annotate it and just like know that I'm going to love it. You know what I mean? I don't reread a lot of books often. I don't know if I've ever reread a book besides like books I read when I was younger. And then of course, y'all knew I was gonna say Mary Jane. I actually heard that the audiobook version of this book is good, so maybe I would do that, but I also would like to have this annotated, so I don't know, but I will definitely be rereading this next year. And then the last book I would like to reread is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I just felt like I read this in a rush and I don't know why, so I would like to go back and read it at a slower pace. Take my time with it. All right, and then that brings us to like the reflection questions. So I'm gonna be honest and vulnerable here because I think our world could benefit from more transparency. In the past like 3 years, I've had a Goodreads reading goal of 20 books and I never hit it. Like last year I read 9 books and 3 of those were in the month of December when I really got into BookTube. So this year I put my Goodreads goal at 20 and I wasn't sure if I was gonna get it, and I'm now at 77 books. So that's obviously really exciting, but I really started getting crazy into reading this past summer, And it was kind of when I was at a low point in my life. So as much as I love that I'm reading so much, I don't want to be reading this much. I think I want to put my next year's Goodreads goal at 100, because honestly, when I picked up reading that much, I kind of stopped my other hobbies and healthy habits, and I don't want to do that. So yes, I'm sorry we kind of got deep there. I hope that's okay. Weirdly enough, my goal for the new year is to read less books. Like 4 less books a month. And then the last question is, what are you prioritizing in 2024 reading wise? After seeing a lot of the books that I pulled for these questions, I realized I really enjoy literary fiction and historical fiction. So I want to prioritize that, and then I want to not pick up YA books as much as I do. Besides like Lynn Painter YA romance and like fantasy YA, I don't enjoy young adult books, so I need to just stop getting them. And yeah, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Answering these questions was so fun for me, so I hope you had fun. That's all I got for y'all, so I hope you're having a great day, reading a great book, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye guys.